All right, we are live. We are live. We are live. What's good, party people? Welcome to another Black Eyes TV production. Glad to have you. Glad for everyone joining us. You know the routine as always. Like, share, and subscribe. We're going to put the link for the PayPal and all of that in chat. Please offer questions. Today is a nice special day. We're going to be having a good conversation with my brother who's going to be straight in this conversation with these beautiful sisters that we have on eclectic mix of skills. So without further ado, come in the building. Don't forget to hit that like button. And I'm going to hand you over to Professor Konsu. Talk to the people then, brother. Go true.
Yes, greetings, family worldwide. This is Professor Konsu Andre Sankofa, and we are in the palace today of Black Eyes TV7, and we have a special alignment of the divine feminine queendom. All right, so all of these sisters lined up here are doing the blessed works of our community. And just wanted to get everyone together, just to chop it up and to connect, and let's just have a conversation about current issues, our community, and most prevalent about you, all of you, beloved queens, and your life and what you do in the community and how you impact the community. So yeah, just wanted to bring it together, as I would say, I mean, when we talk about the divine feminine thought leaders, we can go into a tray load of queens in London and New York that are doing amazing works. But I've all connected with you in some way or form. So I thought I'd bring you all together so we can just have a beautiful conversation, So in saying that, I wanted to play, I did a little present for you all. I think you may have seen it earlier today. And this will give the people insights into who you all are, just little snippets of who you all are. So I'm just going to begin the build with that, and then we'll do an intro. All right. Can we all see this? Brother Rich, can we see the screen?
Yeah. It should be up all and running. When you're ready, press play.
Okay.
I want to thank all of the warriors who went out yesterday to protect our women and children on the London Black Lives Matter protest against the racist EDL thugs. You guys did an amazing job, and I am so proud of you. So thank you. What's up, queridas, beautiful women? My name is Betsy Perez, and I am the creator of Papaya Intimate Wellness. And what is Papaya Intimate Wellness, and why did I decide to create this business, this practice? I was in conversation with one of my homeboys last night, and I was telling him, sometimes when you're healing, you are the trigger man. Making ways that are manifesting in my adulthood, or whatever adulthood is. Being launched, so what can we expect, you think? My expectations aren't very high, but the fact that there's an inquiry about the police actually doing an investigation into themselves is bizarre in the first point. And secondly, with regards to what was said, with regards to stop and search, etc., one thing that we have to also look at and take into account is that we have this matrix that the police actually have as well, the gangs matrix, and even those that are victims of crime are actually put on there. Yo, what have you done this week? And if I don't do it, he'll be like, yo, why have you done it? You better do it. And I'll be like the same to him. So get a person that's got your back, that will push you no matter what. You know what I mean? And that goes to anybody. You need like a circle around you of people, of doers. So you say, I'm going to say something and then you say it, okay? Okay. I am beautiful. I am beautiful. I am great. But it's not about that. Like, everybody's on their own journey. And what's for you will never pass me by. What's for you will never pass you by. It's coming. You can only enter the space when you're vibrating at the same level as it. If you're not on the level of it, it's not coming in, I'm telling you. I just finished my first session of 2020. An amazing session, some amazing year 8 girls, different personalities, got the loud and bubbly ones, got the shy and quiet ones. But I'm just happy to be on a journey with these young girls. It's my first day back at work. I haven't been in this building for 3 months. I mean, I love my garden, but I love it here more. We've got so many amazing events that come in. Let me tell you, bigger, better, amazing. Come and support. We're all about excellence and we're bringing it. We are going to be bringing it. So watch this space. You know, I think people don't know what's happening, but like, that's actually going to happen or not is another situation together.
Do you think it was intentional?
Yes.
Oh,
100%. It's part of the gentrification situation that's happening. It's like, yeah. And even when you look at certain places like you have this like Tottenham in East London, all of these places that were nothing African people, you know, all of these people are now being picked up working class. You say to young black people, you need to be aware of what's going on and know the paths to kind of take in order to create change.
All right. So that's who you all are. Just to give an intro to the people. That was just all your little Instagram narratives that we put together. I hope you like it. And yeah, the divine feminine queendom of thought leaders. So I just thought I'd start by asking you all just to introduce yourself, and maybe beginning with beloved sister Betsy, because you are 5,000 miles away in New York. So let us know what you do and what's your extensive portfolio of works and that has brought you to the journey you're on today.
First of all, I want to say, can you guys hear me good? Can you ladies, everyone hear me good? Great. I want to say, thank you. I want to say thank you so much for that, Kansu. And I'm feeling very honored, very blessed to have been given the extension of an invitation to be here with you all in this capacity. So I just want to say thank you to you. I feel very, very loved. So I'm Betsy, and I am a Black Dominicana, raised in the South Bronx. And my work right now, that is my life's work as well, is sexually reparenting, supporting adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse, especially Black women, to sexually reparent themselves and give themselves the support that they weren't modeled or given by their caretaker or their community at the time of the abuse, in hopes that we can become more emotionally resourceful for ourselves, reconnect to our bodies, and understand that our sexual history does not have to continue to color and dictate the sexual pleasure and the sexual intimacy and all the levels of pleasure and intimacy that we have the birthright to. The beautiful Cheryl. Um, so that's really where my life work is at right now, and that has evolved. I've been doing writing theater as a form of using it to raise awareness about social justice, gender-based violence against women and girls here in the United States. And it has really continued to impact the way that I'm able to do this work for myself and really support other women in doing that. So I'm just here really using my experience, my life experience in a way that is responsible and that I'm paying it forward, because all of the healing that I've done, I understand that is necessary with the silence that is around childhood sexual abuse, and also the adults that are living in the silence, because there's a lot of talk about prevention, which is important and which is necessary. And then what do we do with the 42 million, at least here in the United States, that have experienced it? And then if 30% of cases aren't really reported, then what happens to those 30% of adults that are living in silence, you know? And that for me was painful. And I don't want to like live in a world with other adults and other women, especially that look like me, in pain, when we should be feeling pleasure and living from a point of pleasure, from our pleasure principles. But we need to first really reorient that and reframe that, and really do the compassionate work with our inner children and with the parent within ourselves to get to a place where we understand that pleasure is important for our health and for our well-being, and really for the lives that we want to create. So that's me all the way from over here. And thank you again. And I'm excited for the rest of the combo.
Oh, wow, wow. Bless. Yes. I mean, what you just expressed is so relevant, especially in this time, 2020. I call it the year of clear vision, where many things are being exposed and silences are being broken in terms of the subject matter of what you heal. So important. And also, the most powerful force on the planet, it's pleasure and it's creation. So blessed for your work, so necessary in our community. Just love
Thank
what you
you.
do. So I wanted to shift on to Mrs. Phoenix. Greetings, Cheryl. How are you? Are you still in Hyde Park with the children?
No, I'm not. I'm actually now in a store looking for clothes for my granddaughter. But I'm here with you guys. Don't get it twisted. She's 10. She can pick herself. So I'm just here. We had a little day out with a lot of families and the young people. Let them run up and down, feed the ducks and whatever. But I'm here.
Okay. Can you let the people know what is it you do in a nutshell? Just sum up the extensive works that you do for the community.
Yeah, so I am the founder and director of the Black Child Agenda, Tackling the School System Pipeline. So what that basically in essence means is that when our children are in this UK education system, which is anyone that's from America in this school will understand the school system pipeline terminology. I heard about it back in 2011, and I could see clearly what the system and systematic approach to young black males in particular was with regards to the exclusion/push out rate of them in the schools. No matter what they did, it was too much or too little. It was never enough. Children with additional needs, mental health, etc., being pushed out regularly. And what that in turn does is push them into the hands of groomers, gang activities, etc. And then they end up in keep referral units, centres, and then from there into the prison system for a lot of the time minor infractions that could have been dealt with from school. 68% of young people in the prison system in the UK have mental health conditions that were never diagnosed whilst they're in school. So it could have been a preventative measure. So to me, that actually said that if you know that that case is so high, why has nothing ever been put in place to protect these young people, to prevent them from going to prison? Because clearly that means that it is actually a deliberate act where our children are concerned. Now we have a problem with young girls with regards to with regards to mental health on the rise, from bullying from predominantly white and when they defend themselves, they're called violent, aggressive, etc. And our young black girls are over-sexualized, whether in the education system or even dead by the industry. And I don't mean this physically, but just in the normal lifespan. So you have young girls with natural hair in the school system who are put in isolation. That has a huge impact on mental health and well-being. But they don't care when it comes to a black child. They don't give a damn about us. They say that we're violent. They say that we're aggressive. They say that everything we do is under a microscope. And with that, then they get pushed out and then either sexualized, over-sexualized into the mental health system or into the prison system. Those are the three plans that they have for our children. So my question goes back to parents all the time. What is the plan you actually have for your own child? And unless you have a plan for your child, trust me, they already have one. Medication, they've got a key for your child's cell, or they've got a key for the mental health asylum. Pick one or do something different. So that's where I go with that. So that's what I do. As well as dealing with exclusions, I also deal with social services cases, deal with immigration, employment, housing, etc. And that's not just me. I have a legal team of solicitors who support the Black Child agenda in those areas. But my specialist area is education and touching on social services as well. So that's me.
Okay. Yes. Love that. I mean, I would say that your work is preventative work, and in this time of pandemic, this buzzword at the moment, I would deem you an essential worker in terms of the school to prison pipeline that is becoming chronic proportions, in recent times. So that's the blessed work. That's the light work. That is the divine feminine work. When we speak of divine feminine, from the concept of kind of being spiritual and meditation, yes, that is part of it. But really, the light work that you all are doing, for me, encompasses the great mother, the divine feminine, the energy that in terms of new age philosophy we are coming into. So blessed for that. So I'm going to shift forward onto Chazelle. Greetings, Queen. And can you introduce yourself to the people and let them know the good works that you do?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. Blessings. I'm Chazelle. I am the founder of Slavery Remembrance, and we host an annual memorial in Trafalgar Square called Sankofa Day, which is to mark UNESCO's International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its abolition, and to remember and honor our ancestors. The date is the 23rd of August, which is a very important date for us because it's also the start of the Haitian Revolution. So that's why we chose to mark that day. I also have a sister organization called My Tribe, which is preparing to launch this year. And yeah, it's about sort of connecting the diaspora and supporting Black-owned businesses and not-for-profit organizations and creative entrepreneurs.
Okay. All right. You know what I like, Chazelle? You have aligned your event with Book Mandati and Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture. The revolutionaries, the first Caribbean free state. Divine alignment, and very much look forward to that event. I'm definitely going to be representing and putting the word out on that, for the blessed works that you're doing. And with that, I'd like to move on to beloved Queen CC. Greetings. Can you let the people know the extensive works that you do in the community?
So hi guys, my name's CC. I am a freelance journalist and founder of an organization called The People Versus. I wouldn't say we specialize in anything, but the purpose of our organization is to provide African education to the community. It is to showcase entrepreneurs, Black businesses, to celebrate Africans across the diaspora, and to basically highlight the significance of Black businesses and young Black people and the collective in the community in ways that other media outlets are not doing, predominantly European. So yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, bless. You know what I love about UC is that especially in the grassroots journalistic community, it's predominantly men, debating, chopping it up, even beefing with each other. But you come with that supreme intelligence, caliber of journalism, and I've seen you doing your light work, and the way you question people and bringing out the best in them. And just bringing out the best in our community, So just blessed for the light works that you're doing, And definitely not last and least, but Queen Selena of Birmingham. Greetings, Queen. Can you let the people know the extensive works that you do in the community and introduce yourself?
First of all, I want to begin by just thanking the ancestors, the universe, the great spirits for bringing us together on this evening, giving us life, giving us breath, giving us the ability to be here. So give thanks always to the highest of the high. I am Selena Brown. I actually wear two hats. One of my hats is I'm the head of marketing and events for Legacy Centre of Excellence. Legacy Centre of Excellence is based in Birmingham. It's the largest Black-owned arts and business centre in Europe. And when I say the largest, I mean by space. We have 2 large auditoriums, 11 offices, a five-star restaurant on site, a coffee shop that's about to open in September. We have business suites and meeting rooms. So it's a very, very large centre. The centre got purchased by Keith Smith in May 2019, and it opened in September 2019. And since then, it's been absolutely incredible. We've had the likes of BBC One Extra down, Ditto Music down. We've hosted the Black History Month launch event. We've done loads of children's activities and projects. And obviously, due to COVID, things slowed down a bit. But we're now into Legacy 2, and we've got some incredible things coming. Actually, on the 5th of September, we have Black Pound Day. So we linked up with Swiss and Pound Day, and on the 5th of September, we're having the first Black Pound Day market in Birmingham. We're expecting around 1,500 to 2,000 people. So it's a very, very large scale event with over 60 vendors and food and music and demos. So it's incredible. If you're in Birmingham, come down. If you're in London, come down. It's incredible. So I'm very honored. I'm so honored to do that job. I'm actually trained in media and marketing. I have a master's in it. I have a PGC in it. So it's actually my passion in terms of the professional side. On the other side, I'm actually the CEO of a company called Little Miss Creative, which I founded in 2013 after I came back from living in New York. While I was in New York, through some amazing synchronicities, I actually studied with Queen Afua in her house for 2 years. So I was very close to Queen. I got certified in room wellness and holistic health. And I just met up with some incredible queens, and I just learned so much about myself. I became vegan, and that's when my inner healer really came out. And so I came back to England wanting to obviously connect with women and bring women together. And so I founded Little Miss Creative. It started as a networking group. So just in a cafe, a couple of women meeting, and then it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And so it's an honor to actually be able to birth this organization. And so we've worked with the likes of Google and Microsoft on campaigns. We've been able to travel abroad to Gambia and Jamaica and Brazil to do workshops over there. Unfortunately, my first employee, which became my business partner, transitioned in 2016, and that was really, really difficult, So although I had a breadth of work and I had this organization that impacted over I think it was about 5,000 women we impacted at that point in 2016. I actually stopped the organization because I just couldn't continue because obviously my business partner transitioned. In 2018, I started it back again. And so now we focus solely on at-risk young girls. So we work in schools within the West Midlands. Currently, we're in 10 schools, and we have a very extensive program that looks at self-love, financial literacy, healthy relationships, sexual health, just a whole breadth of stuff. And we work with predominantly year 9 groups, but we do secondary schools, people referral units, and also we've worked in some nurseries as well, which has been incredible. And so that's basically what I do. And also, my main role is a mother. Above everything else, I'm a mother to a beautiful 2-year-old princess, and it's an honor. Obviously, he chose me to come through to be here on this planet. So above everything, I'm a mother. So that's me, Selena Brown.
All right. I mean, Selena, that shifts into where we were going in terms of just building with you all, because I mean, people are going to ask you what you do and amazing work you do, but really, I'll continue with you, Selena, and what I wanted to ask is, what do you do for me time to give to yourself to balance out what you give to the community? Because all of you, I know, at some stage have exhausted yourself in the light work that you're doing. So I'm just curious, and you know, also for, you know, those coming up, you know, just to give them an insight. But what do you do to balance out yourself and to self-care?
Okay, so I have a routine where I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Every single morning, I sit in this chair that you see here, and I meditate for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes, I have a journal, and I literally just brain dump everything that's on my mind. I just brain dump. And then I do my gratitude, and then I have some tea, and then I'll continue with my day. In the evening, I do the same thing. I meditate. I might take a hot bath. And then when it's the full moon, and just when I feel it's necessary, I'll hold a ceremony. So that means I'll get my candles out. I have my altar anyway. There's a standard in my house. So I'll sit in front of my altar. I'll light my candles. I'll pour libations, and I'll really go into spirit. And I'll just sit and I'll listen and I'll communicate with spirit. And I'm just really in that zone for maybe like 2 to 3 hours sometimes. I try and do it in the sacred hours, which is 4 a.m. in the morning. So I try to connect and just align at that time. I take sacred baths. I'm always in nature. I'm exploring nature, and just out and just being around the energy and the frequency. I go out with my friends. I party, obviously, I let my hair down. So I'm not gonna just sit here and say I meditate all day. I don't do that. I'm out. I'm with my girlfriends. I'm traveling. So I find, because what actually happened to me in 2014, I actually burnt out. And I actually was in hospital for a whole week on a drip. You know what I mean? So I learned my lesson in that you have to take care of yourself, and you have to have the balance. And it's also about being able to say no. You can't say hello. You can't say yes to everything. Yeah. So it's about saying no. I also homeschool as well, my daughter. And so it's also balancing that with the work and my business. And luckily, my job is my joy, and my work is my joy. And so when I am working, it's just filling me up. You know what I mean? I'm just being filled up. So thankfully, I don't have to step into a 9 to 5 that I hate or anything. Everything that I do feeds me, is part of my purpose. And so thankfully, I don't have to take too many breaks. But yeah, that's what I do when I need to take a break.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. And I have the same disclaimer, you know. It's like I say, you know what, if you see me in the club jamming, you know, it's just like, don't side-eye me.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you gotta listen to the Pop Smoke, you know what I mean? Like, I listen to Pop Smoke. I love my Pop Smoke. And so, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say that I'm listening to Erykah Badu all day. That's not me. I have the balance, you know what I mean? I'm just me. I'm Selena.
Balance, you know, balance. So yeah, it's all about divine balance, you know, of the positive, negative, the polarities. So yes. So can I shift on to Betsy? What do you do, Betsy, in terms of you know, self-care and taking care of yourself to balance out the extensive works. And in your case, quite intense healing that you do for the community.
Well, well, the healing that I do for myself, well, before I even go into like what do I do for my me time, I have to really say that I really didn't really know what that meant, what me time meant, because it really wasn't modeled for me. So for me, I had in the last 6 years of me time, because the cocoon of trauma and pain and other people's perceptions and ideas and things like that broke. And then that was when I started to really kind of understand, like, oh, okay, like this is what I like to feel good, right? In a way that it's not going to put me in the cycle of feeling guilty about feeling good. Because a lot of the time I confuse me time for really just like isolation. And really understanding for me, like me time, how am I isolating, or am I taking sacred time to commune with myself? Am I isolating or am I communing with myself? And I also do believe that isolation is important. It's just a matter of, for me, when does that start to become detrimental to your spirit? Because it can. And so for me, now that I'm really kind of like in the space of like my me time, it really does involve my Boveda, which is my own altar, like going to my altar, sitting with it before I do anything, keeping my phone literally away from me, so that when I wake up, the first thing that I do is not like check my phone or what have you. I know what time it is if it's ringing. If the alarm is ringing, I don't need to check it. I just need to dismiss it, keep going on about my day, but keeping it away. Yeah, going out in nature. I live up the block from Central Park, so that's always accessible for me. Really, like one of the top things, honestly, too, that I do for like my me time is having visible like singing concerts. Like I blast the music, I'll start singing, and I'll just start, having a performance and dancing and just kind of like going all out and having like that playtime, that me time. Yeah. That's really for me where I'm finding a lot of my personal time is in being playful and like dancing and singing and being loud as fuck. And yeah, that's where I'm at with my me time.
Playtime and me time. I have seen you on Instagram jamming. I see you. It's all good, man. As I said, it's about balance, especially as we shift into the energy of divine feminine, which is the supreme balancer, And I like the way you expressed that you have sacred time to commune with yourself. Because I imagine you're around a lot of people a lot of the time, mm-hmm. and they're all giving you their energy, mm-hmm. and their information, and you're absorbing it as the healer, and obviously that needs to be expelled in some way,
Oh, for sure.
Why not hit the club and do it that way? It's all good,
Exactly.
Well as, Selena, your time of meditation and reflection and journaling, exhausting your journal until there is nothing there to say, and then start your day. I hear you loud and clear. Sister Queen Cheryl, how about you? Because anytime I call you, I always hear children in the background. Or you're rushing, you're on your way to Manchester. I'm just on my way to a court case. Yeah, I'm just on my way to the BBC. So how do you balance that out, Cheryl, in terms of your own life and, keeping yourself...
You know what it is? I basically just do nothing sometimes. Like literally, I can sit down and just be for hours on end. 9 times out of 10, like you said, yeah, I've always got children around me, something. So time is doing absolutely zero.
I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes, for me time means doing nothing, not doing anything. And that's literally, I can sit down in a dark room doing zero, and I'm quite happy with that. Not speaking to anyone, not communicating with anything, not thinking about anything. And I do that quite happily. And people always ask, oh, how do you just sit there without doing anything? Or do you ever get any time alone? Absolutely, I do. Because without that time that I do for myself, then I would probably be in a madhouse. I do so much. As you know, I'm always on the phone, I'm always files, I'm always trying to challenge the system on behalf of our children. So for me, easily to do nothing or just to sit down and maybe even watch Netflix. Being honest, I sit down and watch Netflix. It's mind numbing. I don't have to think about it. And I just keep it moving. So I'm quite good with doing nothing. Sometimes burning some incense. And just chilling, drinking a prosecco. I drink, I party. Being around young people is like one of my biggest things. When they're out doing their thing, I want to know what they're up to. Because the only way you're going to know what they're up to and how they're getting on in the world is by being amongst them. And I've had some great times with them over this lockdown. This lockdown has been amazing, particularly for me, because I'm always busy. So it's been great to actually get to know and speak to them and have them in the house. Cookouts and things. That to me is relaxing. Supporting my son with his business. I know it doesn't sound like everybody else's thing, but that's my thing, and I do it well, and I enjoy it. Put it all on there, and right now we're just shopping with the girls, and it's like, hey, it's great time, and we're going to go back on public transport, which I hate, but you know, it is what it is. So this is what I do for me. And this is what people think is a lot, but to me, it's relaxing. Because I didn't understand relaxing until COVID came, honestly. And then I realized how much I actually do. So to me, this is taking the kill. So I'm loving it.
Okay, I got it. I like that. I have that also. Someone will call me, or I might not even acknowledge their call, but they say, "What was you doing?" And I say, "Nothing." I was doing nothing. I was having a nothing day. I call it nothing days, where I'm just in the zone, you know. So I hear you loud and clear. And I also, you know, in terms of our young people, I mean, that is definitely what keeps my energy young and vibrant, just being around young people and being connected to their world, you know. And it has a spiritual aspect to it in terms of keeping our own vibrancy. So I hear you loud and clear. I'm going to shift on to Chazelle. I know you went camping recently. And how I don't want to hear about the things that went wrong, because I know stuff happened. But how was the general experience of being out in nature and camping? And what else do you do just to balance yourself out?
So I haven't got that sorted yet. My balance is not yet. It's one of my biggest issues is that I haven't found the balance yet. So me time is a rarity. I don't generally have too much of it. I think over the last couple of weeks, what I started to do was when I get up in the morning, I get up quite early, about 6, and then I go and sit in the garden because the sun is out and I've got a chair right in the sun, and I sit there and I try to sit there in silence, but my little one always wants to call me for something. So I'm still working on how to do me time. What I do in the evenings, I don't know if any of you ladies do the same, but I kind of really work really long hours, and then I'll go up to bed, and then I want to sleep, but I'm desperate to have that me time, so I'll go on my phone. It used to be Netflix, but now I'll scroll through social media. So I used to scroll through Instagram because it had lots of pretty pictures and I don't need to think about anything. I can just like the pictures and feel happy. But then all this stuff happened and Instagram got quiet. So then I moved to TikTok. I've not signed up. I can just scroll through and laugh at the jokes. And you get quite cool in there for a good few hours because it's just, mind-numbing happiness. Yeah. I do that. But then that means that I'm knackered the next morning. Camping was nice. We should still be there. We should be in Devon or Cornwall or somewhere. But we've got a day and a bit of it, which was frustrating. I would love to be there now because that was me trying to balance everything out. So being in a field somewhere next to water, with the children playing and then me working, and that was me trying to balance it out. But didn't go to plan. Maybe I needed to be here and finish. I have a tendency to run. So when COVID hit, I scooted up my children and well, first of all, we went to Heathrow Airport without any tickets. Thought we could just jump on a plane. That didn't happen. Went back home, and then about 2 days later, we flew out to Cuba. I'm trying to get quarantined in Cuba because I knew they were about to put the UK on lockdown, even though they said they weren't going to do it. And I was like, I'm not trying to get locked down in the UK. I really can't stand that idea. I'd rather be, locked down in somewhere with sea and sand and sun. So I just sort of bought a ticket, and then 2 days later, I think we jumped on the plane to Cuba, but we ended up having to come back. But yeah, so I have a tendency to run when I want to escape. But yeah, I'm still working on how to think something. I've listened to what you ladies do, and I'm thinking, okay, these are good tips. I'm going to try to do something different. So I'm loving that brain. I'm loving, sitting down for. So I think I might be reaching out to some of you afterwards and getting some more information on exactly how you do it, because I'm like, I need to start learning this properly.
I hear you. I mean, in lockdown, one of my friends sent me a photo on his phone. He was in the Caribbean like this. He said, I'm in lockdown. Cuba, come on.
No, so we only got to stay there about a week. Like, we were supposed to be there for 3 months, but they locked. So initially Cuba was open, and then the day we arrived, they locked it down. And 2 days after we arrived, England went on lockdown. But the thing was with Cuba is that all the tourists had to go to a hotel and stay in the hotel. They weren't allowed to leave, and they weren't even allowed to sort of leave their room or use the pool or anything. And I was like, and it was just indefinite. It was until you got a plane back. And I was staying at a friend's, and I thought, okay, well, we can't do this. If it's just for a couple of weeks, fine. But it was until you got a plane back, so it was indefinitely. So I was like, okay, we've got to come back, which is really depressing. But hey, we got out there for a week, which was really nice.
Okay, bless. And Queen C, how about you? See, anytime I speak to C, she's driving, man. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna park up, So what do you do, C? What do you do to balance yourself out, from the light work that you do?
You know what? I think Betsy made a really good point in terms of like attempting to create time for yourself. And I think as women, because we're caregivers, we spend so much time dedicating us and committing ourselves to, servicing other people and providing other people with, ourselves in whichever capacity. And for me, I've found it incredibly difficult to actually find time for myself. That's actually been like a really difficult process, and a necessary one. And I think I started to do it a little bit before COVID. But since COVID, it's really kind of helped me understand the importance of me time. I have a 5-year-old, and my son is a very active spirit, which requires a lot of attention. And then on top of that, I work. And then on top of that, I freelance, and I'm doing the People Versus. So there's a lot going on. But like I said, during COVID, it's really helped me kind of identify the importance of needing me time. So things that I like to do is ride my bike. I like to have internal conversations with myself, which help me and allow me to write. I like to have external conversations with myself out loud into the universe. I like to sing. And of recent, today I spent a lot of time I have an allotment. So I spent a lot of time with a friend of mine, just like soaking up nature, planning where we're going to plant stuff. And so that's a project for me that I'm really excited about, and just kind of listening to my inner monologue. Like, that's a really big thing for me. That's me time. Being kind of introspective is me time. There are a lot of things, but those are just some of the few things.
Okay. and I do recall the late greats, Dr. Lalo Africa. I remember in his book African Holistic Health, he said, you know, when feeling troubled, toil the earth. That's an old school Caribbean saying, you know. And I've been on retreats where we've had to plug ourselves in, literally like a plug, sit down and dig your fingers into the earth to charge up, you know. So I hear you, man, in terms of you know, the things you do to balance yourself out. So I wanted to shift on, and this is for any of you, especially those of you that work with young people, and we're very much aware of what's happening with our boys, because it's always on the news. Youth on youth crime, youth on youth violence, gun and knife crime, quote unquote. But from your observations, those of you that work in that field, what are your observations of the current state of girls, you know, teenage girls, for example, and the issues and challenges they have to deal with and overcome? And what are our girls doing? We know what our boys are doing. They're on road. You know, a lot of them are seduced by that lifestyle. But what are the sisters doing out there? Can anyone give us an insight into that world?
I mean, I don't mind going
Okay.
first. Like I said, I work in pupil referral units, secondary schools and nurseries with young girls. I'm finding that social media is completely shifted how young girls see themselves, how they interact with the world, how they interact with themselves. So you have to imagine that they all have phones now. And at any time, at any point, anybody could be recording. So they always have to be on point. So, and they've got this whole thing about having a reputation. Like, I can't be looked to be weak. I can't be looked to be like this. And so they're always acting and performing. And when I have one-to-ones with them, it's tiring. You know what I mean? So I'm finding a lot of girls are over-sexualized. So they're following the car, which is at that age, it's a problem. If you're 11 and 12 and wanting to be like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Because you shouldn't be thinking about, you know, you shouldn't be thinking that way at that age. It's way too young. And so there's an unhealthy relationship. So with the over-sexualization comes the interest in men. And there's a lot of men out there that are groomed because the girls are portraying themselves to be older than they are. They're just preying on them, preying. And so they have this whole thing of these older men coming to these young girls now. So that's an issue within itself. So you've got body image as well. And so I've got a lot of girls saying, miss, I want a big batty, I want a big breast, miss. When I get older, miss, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to get this done. So there's this, the whole self-hate is just on the next level, And when I'm kind of challenging them, like, but you're beautiful, you know, you're made in the image of perfection, you know what I mean? The universe, God, the Most High, don't make no mistakes, you are amazing. But miss, I want this. So it's like that whole dialogue there. There's just so, and then you got even I got brought into a nursery because it was so sad. I got brought into a nursery to work with a group of 3 and 4 year olds because there was a group of dark skinned girls that all wanted to be friends with this light skinned girl, and they didn't want to be friends with each other. And so from that age, there's this thing about light skin is beautiful and dark skin is beautiful. And when I'm talking to them, and they're only 3 and 4, you know what I mean? But already at that age, they have the perception because of what they see on the TV with these, you know, as we know, you know what I mean? And so there's just so many different, and so that's why, for me anyway, with my daughter and knowing what I know about working with young women, all her dolls are, like when she steps into this house, this is a African household, you know what I mean? All her dolls are black. All her books are black. You know what I mean? The TV shows that she watches are black. You know what I mean? You got Akili and Me, you got all these different programs. So I'm just programming her, not even programming her, but I'm just showing her herself and in the greatest and best light. And so she's not going, because when she steps out into the world, everything's telling her, everything, like from the TV to the music, that she's not perfect. Yes. And that she has to be something else, and you know what I mean. So it's my job as a mother. It's my job and my role as a mother from now at the age of 2 to let her know who she is. You know what I mean? Let her know that where she comes from, and let her know who's around her, because the ancestors, like, she never walks alone. So unfortunately, I have to big up the schools, because they bring me, because when I go into the schools, I'm talking like I'm always authentically me. I'm always Selena. What you see now in any role, you always see Selena be like this. And so the schools bring me in knowing that I'm planting seeds. Yeah. And so I'm working with these year 9s, and I'm working with these year 10s, and I'm doing financial literacy and self-love and confidence and all of that. But you don't see results straight away, because it takes time for seeds to blossom and things to grow. And sometimes I'll get little messages on my Insta like, yo, Selena, you worked with me in year 7, and now I understand what you're saying. So it takes time, but it's a completely different world from when I was at school. You know what I mean? It's a completely different world, and we have to, and when we approach these young girls, there's this level of fearlessness that they've got. Like when I was in school, I used to be afraid when like a year 11 walked past me. I used to be scared when like year 10s are trying to fight year 11s. Like there's no fear. These kids are radical, but it's about, and it's amazing. It's amazing. There's some indigo children there, but it's about challenging that energy and who are we fighting and what are we fighting for? You know what I mean? We're not meant to be fighting each other. There's like, we're in a spiritual war right now. That's what we're meant to be fighting. It's about just like, you know, letting them know what time it is. So that's my take on the whole situation.
I hear you loud and clear. And in the work I've just got this like secret superhero persona in my mind, like Professor X, you know. It's just like, you know, Professor X and the X-Men, they can see all of the mutants globally. I'm just like, I'm like Indigo Child Radar. I'm like, okay, let me focus on this one. Let me focus on, these are indigos, you know, and that's the light work that we do, you know. And it's interesting that it's getting younger and younger, which is a bit disheartening. And that's exactly why you have your calling, you know. So I wanted to ask Betsy.
Can I? Oh, go on, it's fine.
Oh, you want to go, Cheryl? Okay, let's flow with Cheryl.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to even just weigh in on the point that was made with regards to our young people. And for me, a lot of it is conditioning, and that's conditioning by the TV, where I put I will go back to the parents solely, because at the end of the day, you're your child's first teacher. And if you're teaching your child that watching the TV and worshipping the white face and the blonde hair and the blue eyes, then I'm sorry, you're the only one to blame for how your child then wants to bleach their skin and put on blue contacts and they don't like themselves, if you're not actually reinforcing who they are. However, I will contradict that by saying we also have a lot of parents who have children in care. So when you deal with a lot of children who are in the care system, they're not given that nurture, they're not given that love. And those are the ones you mostly find who are on the roads dealing with the things that they're dealing with regards to a lot of the gun and knife crime. The vast majority of them are in the care system and or have also been permanently excluded. It's a statistical fact that I don't need any government in any country to tell me. My own data for the last 10 years has proven that most of these children that end up getting kicked out of school end up in the hands of groomers and crime gangs, and that's both boys and girls. So we've got girls carrying knives on the road and actually giving sexual favors, and then we have boys on the road. Now, a lot of the thing is as well, when they get to a particular age, 13, 14, 15, and what I find is that parents don't know what to do. They don't know where to go for support and help. The local authority is useless. They don't actually give a damn about us. So for me personally, I'm at the point of almost frustration with us as a community. It's not one parent or you over there doing what you do. Because if we've noticed that the Somali communities come here, they've been here, 20 years? The Polish community, been here 15 years? Somehow they've managed to be here build industry for their children, build a collective for their children. But yet we're still scrapping for jobs. We're still scrapping with regards to each other, who looks better, who dresses better, but we're still failing our children. I've seen and witnessed firsthand on the road where we see some of our children being accosted by police or whoever it may be, and we'll stand by and look. We won't get involved. We won't look. So if that's the case, then is there any wonder or surprise when we see what's going on our streets? Because we're not actually taking responsibility for, remember, our children. These are children we're talking about, you know. They're not big people. These are young people that need our love, support, and guidance. And if they're looking at us and we're not giving that, then is there any wonder that they're out there doing what they're doing? Of course they will, because as far as they're concerned, I don't care. No one don't care about me. Whether you're in the care system or from home, no one doesn't care. And that's what I see time and time again. And what they say, no one's listening. No one listens to me. So why should I give a damn about what any adult's got to say? And they're absolutely right. If no one's listening to what they've got to say, how they feel, thoughts, feelings, and opinions, because we seem to know better. But so far, 75 years on, we ain't done better yet. I'm waiting to see just what the Windrush generation, look how they're disrespecting us on a daily basis. And what have we got to show for it? Nothing. They're putting our people on plane, sending them back at 2 o'clock in the morning. And what can we do? Sign a damn petition. So that's my thoughts, feelings, and opinion on that one. And it's based on facts and evidence, not just a thought, feeling, or opinion. So I just wanted to weigh in on that part. Thanks.
No. Thank you so much. And you know what you were eloquently breaking down. I mean, that's why my field of work is rites of passage. You know, because rites of passage, you said the ages of 12, 13, 14. We know that is the pubescent years. That is when in a boy, testosterone rises by 800%, not 80%, not 8%, 800%. That's, I call it the Incredible Hulk theory. That's when our boys get big feet, deep voice, broad shoulders, and the hormonal changes that are happening. Also with our sisters, our young sisters, you know, the levels of hormonal changes, and also being self-aware that they are attractive to the opposite sex, and you know, just really building a maturity with that. And that's where I'm sure all of us have some influence on the people we interact with. So yeah, it's interesting to hear the insights of the state of current events with our young people, because we are predominantly hearing about what's happening with our boys. And just wanted to shift on to you, Betsy, in terms of insights into what's happening in New York, on the streets of New York with our young ladies.
Well, it's interesting because it's not too far off, right, than what Selena expressed, what Cheryl expressed in terms of parenthood. And that's really a lot of like my stance is that, or like the way that I'm seeing things is, a lot of parents, right, they don't have the time themselves. They are struggling to carve out time to even listen to their own bodies. But when you are, especially now, right, when jobs are very precarious, people don't know what's going to happen within the month. Some people are already out in unemployment. Some people may not even have unemployment because they're not considered either they're not considered essential, or whatever their job situation didn't allow for that. If you were working off the books, you're asked out. A lot of people work off the books, and then there's no insurance, there's no safety net for those things. So I think here what's happening is that, and what's always happened is that people don't have the time, parents don't have the time to listen to their children. The communities, they're shutting down. I don't know if you guys, if you ladies, if anybody on has heard about the rise in crime, because, you know, in between the defunding of the police and the idea that, okay, so police are kind of hands off, so the crime is kind of going up, the stress is going up, the cortisol in our bodies are going up. So when you're hyper vigilant in that way also over your children, over your young girls, then it also doesn't give you space to really listen to them, or to even overreact, or to even overspeak, or to be sometimes your child's bully as opposed to your child's friend, your child's your child's point of support and care and nurturance and compassion. So here it's not too much. It's not different. I don't work with young girls the way that I used to when I was a teaching artist in schools. And it comes down to what Cheryl said. It comes down to what Selena says. The young girls are not being listened to. And with the history that we have of you are seen and not heard, in Caribbean culture, in the Dominican Republic, in Latin American culture, there's this saying that you're told, right? Tú no te gobierna. You don't govern yourself. And that you don't govern yourself until you are 18 or 21, or at the very least outside of the home. So if we think about child development from 0 to 8, 0 to 8, we're sponges. 0 to 8, we're absorbing the ways that people are relating or not relating to us. We're internalizing the actions that the adults or the people around us are, how they're reacting to us or not reacting to us. So those things stay with us. So when speaking for me as a Black Latina and growing up and still seeing it in my family, the same sayings are being said, the same behaviors of minimizing this idea of children. I think that also shifting our ideas of children don't have nothing to be stressed about. Children go through shit. Yeah. Children are still little humans that are experiencing life, that are having experiences. So I think that when we begin at a very early stage from Jump Street, honoring that children are experiencing life, that they're having a sensual experience, that they're actually more connected to the embodiment and the sensuality of the essence of the energies that are happening, I think that we'll be able to have a better trajectory for teenage girls and how we're, and our teenagers in general and in humanity, being able to kind of really be compassionate and understand that this is an accumulation of sorts. The same way that Selena talked about the blossoming, when you put in the work and the intention and watering and fertilizing that, it's also the atrophy of a human when we're not fertilizing and we're not watering that seed or that bud to let it blossom.
Yes. Received, you know. So C and Chazelle, do you have anything to add to the mix? I wanted to expand upon that question, but do you have anything to add to that?
I would like to say that when we're talking about families and the raising of children amongst a family setting, I think that we always have to put everything in context. And I think one of a massive thing that we should never forget about is the generational trauma that's been passed down and down and down. And I think that has a huge impact on our families. It's unhealed trauma. It's trauma that we've not addressed, most of us. And that has a huge impact on your parenting. It's how you were parented and how you then go on to parent and the impacts that has in your child. And if we take it back to when we were stolen, our ancestors were stolen and we were enslaved, and we look at the sheer brutality, the torture and the things that happened to us that people were born and died into, and how families existed in that time, and to show love to a child was dangerous. You have your child ripped from you, to show love to a partner, like rape, beatings, just more than beatings, torture, sliced up, like really, and then when that ended in quotation marks, to go from one trauma to another trauma without ever having any healing, and how you're like, I'm sure we've all seen the videos coming across practically every Caribbean country I've known, where you see a parent beating their child, usually the mother beating their child either with a machete on the flat side or a belt, and to me it always looks like a slave master beating an unruly slave. But what we're not looking at is how this is being passed down from generation to generation to generation, and the effects of that today. They did a study a few years ago, obviously not on Black people because we ain't worth that sort of money, but on the Jewish community, where they found that there's a trauma gene. They had, I think, 5 years of their Holocaust, a Jewish Holocaust, and they found that there's a trauma gene that exists that's passed down from generation to generation. We had 400 plus years. So if they've got a trauma gene, damn well know, excuse the language, that we absolutely will have been having that passed down as well. So there's all of that needs to go. I think we really need to. We can point at other communities and say, oh, but they're able to do it, and they're able to do it, and they're able to do it, but they didn't have our history. It's not the same. We just always put it into context and not be as frustrating as it is and as annoying as it is. Put it into context and understand if we want to see things change, then we need to go to the root cause, and we need to work on that. And for me, it's the healing, it's looking at the generational trauma, and it's that healing. The parents need to heal, the grandparents, if they're so willing, need to heal, and the children obviously need to heal, and that will pass down from generation to generation. But it's dealing with that first, which is something that we've always ran away from, sort of hidden from, shied away from. That's not my history, I don't need to talk about that, blah blah blah, which is why I did Sankofa Day, was to put it right in Trafalgar Square, because we need to deal with it. But it's not something to shame. That's not our shame. We're ashamed of it, but it's not our shame to have. That's the shame of those who did it. That's not our shame. But that's how the abuser treats the victim. They make you ashamed of the fact that you were abused and you don't want to talk about it. And that's exactly sort of the ethos behind Sankofa Day. Our tagline for Slavery Remembrance is educate, celebrate, inspire. And I know when people first saw that, they're like, how could that be attached to Slavery Remembrance? Because that's what it is. It's about uplifting and empowerment. But it's also about looking at what's really happened. It's like that truth, justice, and reconciliation process. We actually have a reparations conference coming up, but repair is in REPAIR, repairing the damage. But yes, I think that we just be mindful of that, because I think that's incredibly important, and that's where the change is really going to come.
Hear you loud and clear. Dr. Joy Daguerre wrote a penultimate book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and the works of Dr. Frances Cress Wesling expands upon that also. And it's interesting to hear that perception, you know, because on top of generational trauma, and Cheryl will be a testament to this, the layers of post-traumatic stress.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, right. With the young people I work with, I work in a social, emotional, and mental health therapeutic high school, undetected post-traumatic stress. So you've got genetics going on that you might not even be aware of as a young person or even an adult. And then you've got post-traumatic stress. So where's the healing going to come in, you know? So, yeah, we got a lot. It's the work's going to come from the healing.
I was literally having a conversation before we got into this with a friend of mine, and we were talking about the young people, the fact that they're literally living in a war zone, and what you said, that they're going through post-traumatic distress. If you've been stabbed, if you've been shot, if you've witnessed a stabbing, you know, if your friend's been killed, or that you are going through, because there's no healing, there's no counselling 9 times out of 10 that's offered to these young people. They're expected to go back to school and act normal, and then they don't, they get excluded. And that's literal, they're living in a war zone. To have to leave your house armored up with that's a war. And the stress on the young mind, and then to witness someone being stabbed, your friend, or yourself being stabbed, that leaves you with internal scars, that leaves you with mental scars. That is post-traumatic stress. So yeah, 100% agree. It is non-stop. As you said, it's layers upon layers upon layers of post-traumatic stress from all different.
But it doesn't stop there. They can see it on their phone. Look at George Floyd, you know what I mean? The trauma still continues, you know what I mean? Trauma still continues. Like, you don't even have to leave your house anymore, but you're bombarded with images of Black people dying like it's normal. No, this is not normal.
No,
this is
abnormal.
You know what I mean?
So my tribe has Black Mental Wealth Week, which is coming at the end of October. We announced it before the George Floyd thing happened. We announced it the 1st of May. And when the George Floyd thing kicked off and that video was going around, we put out an advert for the Black Mental Wealth Week saying, you don't have to watch the video. Facebook, Instagram blocked that advert. Yeah.
Oh, wow, imagine that.
Okay, and they blocked the advert. So I'll say no more, but you guys can read into that what you will.
Yeah, man, we get the picture. And CC, do you want to chime in? I mean, you're coming from, you know, maybe from a journalistic point of view, the people you speak to, the people you connect with. And I know you're back and forth from London and New York a lot. And what's your experience of, you know, the state of current events?
I guess very similar to what everybody else has said. From from a journalistic perspective, part of the reason why I decided to freelance is because I was sick of working for corporations that constantly perpetuate and reinforce stereotypes of black faces and black images of people. And whilst whilst we are in a state of, I don't even know what to call it as black people, and particularly with young people, there are also a lot of young people doing good.
Yeah.
Boys and girls. And I think for me, I couldn't keep working in, for organizations that kept wanting me to write stories about black on black crime and so on and so forth, and just regurgitate information all the time, because that messes up your psyche and it's damaging. On top of all of the historical trauma that we've had to endure, I don't want it to be something that is at the forefront of my mind constantly 24 hours a day. And so I had to remove myself from those institutions. And so now, as much as I am tapped in, and I'm aware of things that are affecting us in the community, and I'm aware of all the trauma that we're suffering, I also like to write about things that are positive within our community that young black people are doing, both boys and girls rather. So yeah, I mean, I echo everything that everybody else says, but that's always at the forefront of my mind, not kind of perpetuating what white media does, and recognizing that we are more than what they project us to be, and we are more than what than our trauma.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Thoughts create things, as they say in The Secret. That's a good question. Are we on a self-perpetual cycle of trauma and dysfunction, just based on really being bait for what we're being fed? What do you think, C?
I think we are, and I think because we live in a system of, because we live in a world of systematic oppression, and it's in our face every day on all levels, it's quite easy to stay within that vortex and to kind of, just exist and, I don't know, live within those confinements 24/7, and they'd be happy for us to do so. But because we are divine human beings, because we are indigenous people, because we are the creators of everything, we are more than what they show us to be. And like I said, that's something that I walk with all the time. And I think even when we're having conversations of this nature or any other types of conversations on other platforms, that needs to be something that we're present with all the time. And that's definitely something that I try to be present with, because we're very passionate people, we're expressive, we're animated by nature. And so because we've gone through so much trauma, because we're so expressive, and because we're so passionate about the things that we have experienced, and often don't get those opportunities to have open, candid conversations, the minute we are around like-minded people like ourselves, it all comes out. It all comes out. And this is our opportunity to vent. And sometimes we have to understand that as much as venting is powerful and is empowering, we have to be solution-based individuals and not be sucked into simply just talking about trauma.
Yeah, true. And as you said, I mean, I got my props. This is what I see us as a people, because we charge everything in all cultures, in all things, in many inventions. And you all are an example of the mother of all nations and all people on the planet. as I look on my screen and I see my 5 beloved queens, you are just a micro of the divine feminine, the original divine feminine, the first, you know. So I hear you loud and clear. See, in terms of, that's a very interesting concept, because I think we go into auto mode, especially in these dialogues where we're really talking about the bad things that are happening. And what I think on that note, in terms of the flow, I really would like to, I mean, I know there's 5 of you, I'm having to go round and round. Some of you are kind of waiting, but I would like for you all to kind of really expand upon the works you're doing and the triumphs and challenges that you are experiencing. Because I've got an insight, we have an insight, and the people out there get an insight into who you are, and they can watch over this and, you know, get a sense of what you do and maybe connect with you in the future. But I really want to hear on the ground, in the trenches, from all of you, what you're actually doing now, what you're doing in the past, present, future, and you know, and some of the let's stick with the beautiful stories, the triumphs you've experienced. Let's all get an example of the works you've done and the beauty that you've seen from it. So can I start that with Selena, in terms of I know that was a loaded question, but do you get the gist?
So the works that I've done in relation.
Let's have a triumph in terms of something beautiful you'll have experienced. Let me just give you an example before you start. I was working in a school with 2 9-year-olds, right? 2 boys of African origin. The school couldn't handle them, so there was like, Mr. Sankofa, here they are. Here's your room. Here's the books, and they closed the door. And I had to deal with these 2 like tiny little things looking at me, but they were so troublesome. My gosh, their game was trying to escape from the school. So they would plan it, both of them. And what they'd do is one would run that way and one would run the other way. So I'm like, oh my gosh. They would play this little game with me. I soon realized that if I just stayed in the same place, they got bored and they came back to me. But my point is, some years down the line, one of those young men, I would share with him books, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey. I'll share stories. I'll go in a library. I'll say, these are your heroes. And he would dash away the books. He said, I don't like reading, man. Why are you trying to make, you know, he would get really agitated. And I did some work with them, and I finished that and went on to another school. Years later, I'm in the Caribbean shopping halls on High Street getting something to eat. I feel a little tap on the back. It's the same young man. How are you doing? I'm fine. You know what? I'm okay. You know, I'm settled in school. And guess what, Mr. Sankofa? I like to read. Okay? So, you know, we never know the impact we sometimes have on the people we interact with. And sometimes the Most High gives us a gift back. He says, here's a little gift. You're going to meet someone you worked with in the past, and they're going to give you a little jewel about yourself, you know? So that's set in the context of, you know, do you have anything maybe parallel or similar, Selena?
Yeah, I can think of a year 9 group that I worked with about 2 years ago. No, they're in year 11, about 2-3 years ago. And when I start certain groups in schools, I always try and talk with the head of year, just to find out what the children are like and what problems they're having and the challenges they're having. Mm-hmm. And they're like, this group is unruly, they don't listen, there's been exclusions, there's been this, there's been that, you know what I mean? The kind of regular dialogue I get. Yeah. And so I went in with this group of 15 young girls. And as soon as the thing with when you're working with young people, the first perception that they have of you, they run with, you know what I mean? So when I step into any classroom, again, I'm authentically me, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just coming as me. Don't call me Miss, just call me Selena, yeah? And so I entered the classroom, and they were like, oh, I always start with my story and telling them like what I've achieved and what I've been through, and just opening up. So first of all, with young people, you have to present yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? You need to show up as yourself. You can't pretend to be something that you're not. You kind of see straight through you. So you need to come and be transparent. So I was just like, oh, this is me, you know what I mean? And so anyway, it was a 12-week program that I had with them. And by the second week, they were just all in the classroom crying. You know what I mean? And these were some of the baddest girls in year 9, you know what I mean? Bawling in the class. And just really kind of just expressing like why they behave the way they behave, because like troubles at home, you know what I mean? Some teacher don't like them, you know what I mean? Because they're scared of like people outside of the school, because some boy issue, like they were just being open. And so I always have like a circle at the start of every session where girls, where they can bring anything to the circle, like any problem that you've had in the week, bring to the circle. Let's talk, let's just express, like don't hold back, just be you. And so anyway, so yeah, just like progressively, like they were just opening up and just revealing parts of themselves. And just by the end of the program, the teachers came to me and were like, wow, like what did you do? Like, you know what I mean? So and so has been turning up every day to class. She's sitting at the front of the class now. She's not answering back anymore. Like they haven't got any exclusions. You know what I mean? And that's just by me authentically bringing myself and listening. You know what I mean? They want to be listened to and they don't want to be judged, because more time people come into them and just say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I said to any session I do with any of the young girls, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how to live your life. All I can do is advise you. And whatever you decide to do with that information is up to you. You know what I mean? Whatever you decide to do is up to you. And one of the kind of disclaimers I have for my classroom as well is that nobody's forced to be there. Because a lot of times in schools, you're forced to be in the maths class. You're forced to be in the English class. If you don't want to be part of this session anymore, it's absolutely cool. You know what I mean? So I have an open door policy that if at any time you don't want to be here, it's cool. And so just having a relaxed environment where they're able to be themselves. And you have to understand that a lot of these girls don't have a safe space. They don't have a safe space, and it's important to have that safe space where they can just be authentically them. There's no cameras or phones around. And so anyway, and that was about 2-3 years ago. And so again, I'll bump into some of these girls around Birmingham. They're like, yo, Selena, I'm doing this now. I'm doing that now. Miss, I understand what you're saying. And so it's just planting the seeds, man. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of stories like that. But one thing I have to say in saying that, in order for me to be able to kind of instill that within young people, I had to work on myself first, because it starts with the self, you know what I mean? So I had to understand. And when I was in New York, I went through a crazy healing journey. Oh man, it was like they say that healing's beautiful. They're lying, because I was in the shower bawling, you know what I mean, in my car bawling. And so I had to go through that immediately, like Shazal was saying, journey back into the trauma, go back. And you know what, to be honest, I'm reaching a point, I can't say that I'm fully healed. Like, to say that would be a lie, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still working through things right now, but I'm at a point where I can say that, I know who I am, and I can be me, and I'm good. And so I'm able to give back fully, enjoy myself fully. So, yeah.
Okay, that was so funny. When you said about healing not being a beautiful journey, you all do that exact same time. It's like, oh. But I hear you loud and clear. I mean, in terms of our young people, I mean, the millennials, okay? Gone are the days of speak when you're spoken to, as Betsy said. Because the millennials are like, well, I got something to say. Gone are the days of what's the other parable? There's a few parables, respect your elders. Yeah, but you know what? I mean, it's two ways. So we're dealing with a whole different mindset. Now we can, as Betsy said, we can be our children's bullies and be stuck in a fixed way of being and lose them, or we can be like a branch in the wind and flow with it and just kind of adapt and be resilient and find different ways of connection. So I hear you loud and clear. I mean, I wanted to shift to C, who kind of like brought us to this dialogue. just in terms of something beautiful you may have experienced from you know, the good works that you do.
There are a few. I think the most important one is the work that I do with my son. I think it was Cheryl that so eloquently mentioned that the work starts at home, and it starts with parenting. And irrespective of everything that we experience as Africans across the diaspora, as much as we are a collective, we have to be okay within ourselves, and we have to work on ourselves in order to be okay for others. And so that for me, that's in my house, being a parent is where that journey begins. Making sure that I am okay mentally, spiritually, physically, in order for me to be okay for my son who will become a man one day, a black man in a European society. That's for me the most fundamental part of giving back to our community. Being a parent for me is not a right, it's a privilege. There are people that can't afford to have children. There are people that are unfortunately not blessed with the ability to have children. And so I see it as a privilege, and I really need to be able to cultivate and do the necessary work in order for my son to be the best version of himself, so that he can be a great contribution to our community. So for me, that's where it begins. That's where it begins. And listening to him, I don't believe that children should be seen and not heard. There are boundaries. He has to understand that I am the parent, but at the same time, I give him the freedom to express himself, and we sit down. He's 5 years old, but we sit down and have conversations like we're grown-ups. We have grown conversations where he's expressive about his feelings. He's very much tapped in. Constantly, you've been around him, so you kind of see, but he's tapped in. And you mentioned the idea of respect is a two-way thing. Exactly, completely two ways. But for me, he has to understand that he has to make the distinction between adult and child. So whenever my son's around elders at community events or anything else, he has to address them as auntie or uncle, because that is how I've been raised. That is how I've been raised. And when you start with that, then for me, there's the ultimate respect level from the foundation, and everything can progress from there. But to cut it short, in answer to your question, for me, my work starts at home in my house with my child and myself.
Most definitely. There's something that I always say, and that is our children are born to teach us how to be parents.
100%.
Our children are born to teach us how to be adults. So before our children were born, I won't even say what I was doing, but you know, we were not mature adults. So who is the real teacher? Is it the parent, or is it the child, or is it a two-way balanced equation? You know? So starts at home. And just wanted to shift on to Chazelle, in terms of the extensive work you do in terms of slavery remembrance and the other multiple projects. I know you've got a project called Future. Remind me.
Black Futures Month.
Black Futures Month. I mean, on your journey of this works you've been doing, I mean, what are the experiences? You know, what breakthroughs have you experienced with our community in terms of what you do?
So I think that there's a couple of me. If you're talking about like things like Black Futures Month and Black Mental Wealth Week, when we were announced back in May, there was a really excited response. I would go, because when you first posed the question, two sort of things came to my mind, two incidents, and it was to do with Sankofa Day. And the first story that I generally recount is that we always get feedback, and it's generally the same thing. What an amazing event! It's really empowering, really uplifting. Blah blah blah. We've got a page that has all our feedback on it, and it's all really. I mean, I love it. It's amazing. It lifts my spirit because so much goes into putting that event on. But there was one year when we got a piece of feedback from a mother, and she said, "Thank you for doing what you do. I was there with my daughter, and at the end, she turned around to me and she said, 'Mummy, now I know where I come from.'"
Yeah.
And then
Come
after
on.
she said,
Come on.
exactly. And then after she said, and my daughter was struggling with identity, and I didn't even realize. So two really powerful things. One, that daughter, that day, and all of our amazing speakers were able to depart knowledge and let a child who was struggling, a young little black girl, with struggling with identity, she knows where she comes from. And then the fact that the mother hadn't realized that her daughter was struggling with identity, so she now had that realization and she could do that work with her at home. So for me, that was really, because that's literally what Sankofa Day is all about. It's educate, celebrate, inspire. So it's our story told our way, unapologetically, as some people like to say, but unfiltered. But it's so that is one of my most favorite pieces of feedback, because that's literally what it's all about, in a nutshell. But then just the other week, I think it was last week actually, I was having a conversation with Toyin Agbetu. I don't know if you know him from Ligali. He's a veteran in this thing from a very, very, he's been in it longer than anyone here, a real veteran, and I've got so much love for him. And he's been, part of Sankofa. He's supported it since the very beginning. And we were talking last week on the phone, and I was just saying, about just how exhausting it is, and blah blah blah. And he turned around, and he had never said this. He'd never shared this with me before, and he said, "You don't understand the impact that the work you do has." It's because he said that, and I can't remember word for word, but he's saying that you don't understand the feeling that I had when I saw the poster the first year. You had posters up, and the impact that it had on me, I had to stop and stare. And I thought, someone's finally taking it seriously. And I was so touched to hear that from someone who's been so long in this, that just, and I had no idea, because he'd never shared that story with me before, that he said just to see that poster, it was the impact that had on me at that time, and and to see finally someone's taking it serious. It's like, oh my God, Toyin. so there's it's just not knowing that your work is impacting, and then hearing it. So those are the two things for me.
And I would say, Queen Chazelle, your job is done. You can, if you choose to, you can retire. You have impacted one person and transformed their whole life. Now, none of you are ever going to retire by transforming one person, but your job is done. You have fulfilled your ancestral, your ancestral calling. But
not Trafalgar Square is full.
Huh?
When Trafalgar Square is full for Sankofa Day, that's when the job is done. There's still a lot of work to go.
You got goals. You got goals. We are all going to go on to impact hundreds and maybe thousands of people, some of who we will never know. Yes, did someone call?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to say something very quickly. Yeah. I know you've got to wrap up. For me, a lot of the time when we have some of these conversations, I think before, obviously, I spoke about, us not necessarily always focusing on the negative aspects of, the conditions of Black people, and focusing more on the positive. Obviously, the collective of this group, and the subject of this group is the divine feminine. Yes. I'm just gonna say it because my spirit's taken me, but I haven't really had the opportunity to have this conversation with this sister before. But I just wanted to say to Betsy, you are, obviously we know each other because we met back in New York some years ago, but you are such a profound human being and such a profound sister, and the things that you're able to give to our community, particularly to young females, is beyond comprehension. And I just wanted to say that to you.
Bless, bless, bless. Yes, and unanimously agreed. So I we all chopped it up in New York. See Betsy, Rich, Terry. We all connected. That's all we're connected. But Betsy is definitely a divine light, and I would say a humble divine light in terms of the extensive work you do. And it will be blessed for the build, Betsy, to leave us with just a testimony of the extensive work you've done and something that's really touched you or touched someone else that you can share.
First off, I want to say I thank you. I wasn't, and I think that right. That's an on-time testimonial, right? Because I wasn't expecting that, and I received that fully. Like that was very filling, and the work that I've chosen to do with adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse is because I, as a survivor myself, I was sexually abused as a child, and no one told me about the healing that I was going to need in my adulthood, which was the recovery of my body, the recovery of the reconnection with my sexuality, and understanding that I didn't become sexual. I've always been sexual from the moment of my conception. And for me, being able to spend 6 years of falling apart, being fucked up, and having to really thug it through and doggy paddle. It hasn't been a graceful experience. The same way that healing is messy. And when we talk about giving something its time for the me time, and that respect is a two-way street. When it's coupled with you've been disrespected with your sexual energy, with your humanity as a child, and then not having a space to express that, and people saying, well, it's been a long time ago, why are you still holding on to that? And that could be coupled with even our generational history as a people, like, why y'all still holding on to that? I think that for me, I always say that your voice, right? Our voices are oral medicine, our story is oral medicine, and it's also giving permission to other survivors to know that, okay, if this person is able to express it, then maybe I can have an ounce of strength to do that, or at least have a soundboard and know that maybe I'm by myself here, but out in the world, there's other people that are saying something, because this is a very isolative trauma. Trauma is isolative. So it has taken a lot for me to be out here. But when I hear things like that, I feel very reaffirmed, and it's shameless. And one of the things that I think the most recent, I did a talk, the first talk, with my organization, Papaya Om. And one of the young women on there said, I talked about arousal non-concordance, which is when you're physiologically, your genitalia is aroused, right? But your mind is not feeling it. Like, this is not what I want, but I'm having a physical arousal. And then vice versa, when you are like, oh, I want this, I'm turned on, but you're not wet, or you're not hard, or you're not getting like that physical arousal, that sensation. And she said, wow, like, I've been meaning to express this to my therapist, but I didn't have the vocabulary. And a lot of the times this trauma robs us, displaces our voice. I don't like to, because I go from an empowerment standpoint where our innocence and our strength and our voice hasn't been stolen, it hasn't been robbed, even though it feels that way. It's just internally displaced. And when we breathe, when we move, when we meditate, when we write, when we're in community, we're able to align ourselves and tap into that sexual, divine feminine energy, that divine masculine, and go from a place of pain to compassion, into pleasure, which is really my hope for other survivors and other people that have experienced any kind of sexual shame or trauma. So that was a win for me and for the community and for her, and because it's a child's trauma, family trauma, a communal trauma, it's a global trauma. So if one person is able to really kind of dig for their voice internally, then I think that that's a win for all of us, especially if it's a Black woman or a Black man, for sure. And yeah, that's me.
Wow. Amazing. Love that. So yeah, I mean, we're rounding up. I just wanted to throw this in the mix for the people out there. This is a very Awakening the Divine Feminine by Master Yayo Morris. And of course, in balance, Awakening the Divine Masculine. So I wanted to round up by
Sorry, I've got a book I want to share as well.
Okay.
It's called The Sibyls.
Let's do a
by
book
Mama
challenge.
The Sibyls by Mama Zogby here.
Okay.
Very, very, very powerful book if you want to talk
Let us
about
know,
the divine feminine.
Let me see the actual title. Okay, the first prophetess of Mami Wata. Okay, well, the people will have that logged and stored. Can you give us a brief insight into what it's about?
Sorry, Mummy, the Sibyls were basically talking about the African goddesses that actually walked the planet and birthed civilization. And when we talk about divine feminine, we have to understand how powerful we are as African women. So these women were able to command the weather, raise the dead, move the planet. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the divine feminine. You know what I mean? And this is the essence that we have within us, within the melanated women. And so the book just breaks down the history of them and how they got separated through slavery and how kind of the Romans stole the legacy. And so it's a very, very deep book. If you go onto actual YouTube, you can see the author, Mama Zogby, talk about the book as well. So yeah, it's a very, very powerful book. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, people will watch back and reference that and Amazon.com that. So okay. Oh, it's not on Amazon. It's not on Amazon. Like this is like a rare book. So just type in the title. The lady has a website, and you buy it directly off the website. So it's not on Amazon. You buy it directly. Does it have the website? I mean, let's be thorough. Can you read the website? It doesn't have the website on the book, but if you just Google the Sibyls and Mama Zogby, then it will obviously show up. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, we're gonna round up, and I'll bring Brother Rich and Brother Riggs into the mix, but I wanted to round up by first of all, I'd like to get from it doesn't have to be all of you, but anyone who wants to chime in. You know, what is your view? Who is that? Sorry,
Val. I was gonna say that Cheryl hadn't given her testimony as to. Oh. Yeah,
bro. Cheryl, chime back in. I've got so many people on my screen here. Cheryl, where are you?
Cheryl just dropped off. She's just dropped off. She'll be back in a second.
Cheryl, come back in. Cheryl. We need you to bring it home, Cheryl. Okay.
Let me just say while we're working, I've really you sisters talking about your experiences and what you do in the community. I really appreciate you coming on to Black Eyes TV. Let me say that from now. And people that are watching, you hit the like button and share out Black Eyes TV. Do now, please, if you've enjoyed listening to the different sisters' insights and their experiences, and you want to hear more of this, then most definitely hit that like button. Donate to Black Eyes, support it, and again, share this out. People in the watch this all, enjoy it. Yeah, Carol's not back yet, so keep talking. If she don't like it, then I'll be out straight away.
I hope so. I hope Cheryl chimes back in. But I wanted each of you to define what, from your own personal viewpoint, or you know, whoever wants to chime in. But what is your interpretation of the divine feminine?
I would say I would say the ladies I see before me are various different forms of that divine feminine. Yeah, I think there's more than one version of it. I think these ladies exhibit it all very well.
Okay.
My phone is it's like heating up and about to die. So I want to kind of chime in before.
Okay.
I think that for me, I second that. It is the women that are here. And it's also the creativity that the men had in coming up with this idea from wherever it came from. I think that the divine feminine, it is, you know, we are the ultimate expression of it, and also in its essence, it is that nurturing, that idea, that playfulness, that ability to let go and let love and let live, but also be able to execute that high idea, that expression that you've downloaded, right? So I think that for me, the divine feminine is in part the ability to feel comfortable in expressing her and executing her highest expression of herself and like her passions. That for me really resonates these days with divine feminine, is expressing my divine passion and being able to execute that in the way that I want, in the way that feels good.
Yes, bless. Anyone else want to throw into the soup of the divine feminine?
I mean, I kind of mentioned it before, but I believe it was. I know it to be the energy that created the whole of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
I know it to be spirit in its divine feminine is spirit, and it's everything because it is the high. It's the most high. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about the divine feminine, we're talking about the African woman who was first to walk this planet. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about here. Well, when we're talking about the divine feminine, we're talking about being the womb center, where everything comes from.
That's right, mommy.
It's the portal through everything on this planet, for everything on this planet. You know what I mean? The womb. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about art. We're talking about love. We're talking about ourselves. Yeah? When we're talking about the divine feminine, we're talking about the ancestral realm and the ability to walk in and out of that realm and connect with spirit and to get guidance and protection. We're talking about everything. We're talking about the universe. And we're talking about the divine feminine, because that was the energy that created everything. Like I said, the woman is spirit, and the masculine is matter. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when we're talking about the divine feminine, we have to look back into history. And we mentioned Haiti earlier, because when we talk about Haiti, we talk about the great Toussaint Devant, that can't say his name properly, but the great battles that took place. And we always talk about the men and the men fighting. What were the women doing? We were calling in the spirits. We were raising the spirits up. We were there in the energies, you know what I mean, channeling the powers for the men to be able to fight. Yeah?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the great battles of Ethiopia, the women again were just calling and chanting and bringing the energies through. That is a divine feminine, and that is our power, and that is what we do.
Come on.
I want to show you. Can you guys see this? Where's the camera?
Come on.
This is the Day program last year, and there, can you see that's La Maîtresse Solitude, who was a fighter in the Haitian Revolution. As if you can see in the picture, she was heavily pregnant. She was a warrior. They caught her. She had her baby, and then they killed her. But the women were also there, and the divine feminine was also there in that Haitian Revolution, fighting along.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you. I mean, that's fitting. I mean, in my book, Sacred Man, From Boyhood to Manhood to Divine Masculine, there's a chapter called, if you can see it, it's called Your Woman Oracle. And it talks about the divine feminine. And what I say in the book is that, for example, we got Martin Luther King here. Martin Luther King would not have become who he was without his beloved wife whispering in his ear. No matter what your views are on Barack Obama, he would not become who he was without his beloved wife, you know? And I also speak, and we've got Winnie. Well, let's not forget Winnie Mandela. You know, let's not forget Che Guevara and his wife, who powered Toussaint Louverture, Brida Louverture, his wife. She's not predominantly written of in the history books, but there is no way these great people would have become who they are without the divine feminine.
That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna, you know, like they're doing the spoken word, you know. All right. So see, do you have anything to add to the bill? Because after that, I just want you all to let the people know where they can find you if they want to connect with you. But see, do you have anything to add to the mix? And Cheryl, I've her phone might have run out because I just tried to call her and it's going to voice message. Yes, Queen C.
I don't want to regurgitate anything that anybody said, because everything that everybody said is so profound. But yeah, the divine feminine is the universe and everything that comes within it. Mother Nature, the plants, the stars, the moon, the children, men are divine feminine. Divine feminine is evolution, introspection, pain, triumph, everything is divine feminine. Everything. The air that we breathe, this conversation, the women within this group are personifications of divine feminine. I don't want to say, how long have we got? I don't want to keep going on, so I'll leave it there.
I think that pretty much sums it up. The divine feminine is everything. Ashe. So on that note, please, can you I'll go round in no particular order, but can you let the people know where they can find you, how they can contact you, and leave your details in the build? Sister Selena.
Mine's actually showing. It's at the Selena Brown across all platforms. So if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me right there.
All right. Queen Chazelle.
I'm on I Am My Tribe, but that doesn't mean I am my tribe. People, it's because the organization is called My Tribe. People often misinterpret that. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, My Tribe. And C.
Oh, sorry. You can find me on XXCEEXXC or alternatively the spelled TH3 People Versus on Instagram.
The number 3 People Versus.
So the E is a 3. So TH3 People Versus.
Okay. And Queen Betsy from the Bronx.
Wow. You can find me at My Body of Words, spelled My Body of Words, and at Papaya, the way you spell papayas, and Om, like Om Shakti. So Papaya Om, and at My Body of Words.
Okay, thank you so much. So Brother Rich, Brother Terry, we are about to close the Palace of Black Ice TV7. We have had our VIP special guests, the Divine Feminine Queendom Thought Leaders. Brother Rich, you're gonna bring it home.
Listen, it's been a
beautiful
build. What can I say? I've just been in the wings, camera off, enjoying myself, just watching the screen, listening to the words of wisdom, as you said, from the divine feminine. It's what Black excellence is made out of. Yeah, understand that. If we don't have sisters like this, if we don't encourage, build, and uplift our sisters, then, you know, it's, don't talk to me about nation building. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. This is, again, a fundamental piece of what we here at Black Eyes TV always talk about: Black family first, the most important thing of nation building. And if the woman is not uplifted, looked after, nurtured herself as a nurturer, as a healer, if that's not done for her, if we don't learn to learn our women's love languages, if we don't respond to them in these ways and cultivate our relationships with them, then nation building will not be possible. Facts. Can have as many strong, you know, ample Black men like myself, like Brother Konsu, like Brother Terry, but if there's no sisters there, it's not going to work out. So again, I thank you all for coming together. I hope we can do this build and conversation again, maybe on some different subject matters. I can, you know, me and Konsu will bring you all together, this power team, and hopefully we'll have something more directed possibly that we can talk about. But I really appreciate you. Again, to everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us. You know what time it is this weekend. Black History Weekend are coming up. 15th and 16th is going to be hectic. All sorts of scholars worldwide coming on. There's adverts and promos on the channel. Go to the Instagram at Black Eyes TV 7. You can find me online on Facebook, Black Eyes TV Richie. If there's any questions or you want to email blackeyestv@gmail7, or you can find Mr. Riggs, Terry Riggs on Facebook and Terry Riggs on Instagram. Yeah, or look out for New Beginning logo, Black Family First. That's another Instagram that we need people to go and support and go and get all your information for up and coming shows. So once again, to everybody that's joined us, big up. Yeah, to this beautiful panel of ladies. It's been my pleasure to be looking at you and listening to you. To Professor Konsu, big up yourself every time, bruv. You pulled it off. Well done. Yeah, that's cool. There was a lot going on. So
thank you, Konsu. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, that was so beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you, Queens. And I would say my final word would be, my reflective thought would be, the divine feminine is everything.
Holla back.
All right, people. Peace, peace, peace.
All right. Peace.